All righty. Welcome, everyone. Let's see. Welcome to the December 17th Planning and Zoning Commission meeting for the town of New Canaan. We have this 6 o'clock meeting. We have three different items on the 6 o'clock meeting. This is the special meeting. And then the regular meeting will be 7 o'clock. We have 2 items on that one. So for attendance, today's the 17th. Dan Radman here, Krista Nielsen.
Here. John
Kriz.
Here.
Chris Herring.
Here.
John Engel is not here. He's not on Zoom, is he? Yeah. Paul Knag is out. Alan Swerdlow.
Here.
And then Christina Larson.
Here.
And Tom Benton and Eric Knowles are out, right?
Yep.
Okay. All right, well, we have 6. Got a quorum.
And so Christina is seated for all.
Christina is seated for all of them tonight, correct. All right, first application, 272 Elm Street. Upon application of VIM Incorporated, care of Frank Vuoso, owner for a site plan approval pursuant to sections 4.4.c.1 to permit a change of use from a bank to a retail pet store with dog grooming services in the Business A zone at 272 Elm Street, Map L, Block 135, Lot 12. Who do we have? Come on up. You can sit at the table or podium, whatever you choose, and just turn the mic on. You gotta kind of hold it. Yeah, there you go.
There we go.
State your name and association with the project.
Also, president of VMI, owner.
Okay, can you tell us about your application?
The application is to convert the bank into a pet supply store, enclose the rear drive-through into a grooming area, and that's really all.
Any change to the parking or to the facade or
Not touching it.
nothing?
Nothing at all.
So
Just the drive-through obviously is not enclosed, so that'll have to be enclosed. That's it.
okay, so the drive-through is still going to be enclosed, similar to the previous application.
Correct.
Okay.
Except the one door, it's not a garage door. It's an actual exit door, smaller exit door.
Okay.
Can you describe the nature of the grooming services that are being provided?
Dog grooming, cleaning, nail trimming, washing.
Are they being done like, so I'm sure you've been to Pet Pantry, which is right
course.
around the corner. They have dog grooming stations, but it's like you do it yourself. Like I would
That's
bring
a
my dog.
self-wash, right?
Yeah.
No,
Is it
this would be-
self-wash or this is like
No,
full
this-
service?
This would be full service.
Okay,
You would bring your dog in and we would actually,
drop it off.
Right.
And have
you could
you,
drop it off. Right? Yeah, sure.
have you looked into, I think, State Department of Agricultural regulations
There
about,
is licensing that's involved.
yeah.
It shouldn't be a problem.
I think you may be required to have some outdoor space for the animals,
Okay,
which is not shown on your site plan.
okay. It didn't say so.
It didn't say so?
No.
Okay. I read that if they were gonna be there for more than 4 hours, that they needed to have some sort of outdoor recreation space.
Okay.
And I think that's something.
And that would be
this-
something easily to add on, but,
Yeah, but the use is something I think this commission needs to consider
okay,
if we want
okay.
that in that area. of town.
Hopefully that doesn't end up happening. I mean, I don't think they would be there for longer than 4 hours. I mean, I think a grooming would be about an hour, hour and a half.
Okay.
I have 2 labs. It doesn't usually take that long to groom them.
I think it just depends on your business model. I mean, I bring my dogs to Spa Dogs over on the other side of town and I often drop them for a couple of hours, but
Okay.
she's got multiple dogs
Right.
queued up, ready to go. I don't know what your model is.
Commissioners, any other questions?
From a signage perspective, is there any signage?
At this point, no, we want to get it approved first. We would apply for permitting, obviously. I mean, we have to anyway.
Okay, and that's a different follow-up application to this.
Yeah, so if they, as long as they fulfill as long as they propose signage that meets our requirements, it'll just be administratively handled through our office. So you would only see the signage if what they propose doesn't meet our regulations.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
So are you changing the front doors? Because the drawing that you submitted has the front doors and those like two vestibules, one entry vestibule, one exit vestibule. It's different than what exists there now. So is that all moving around?
No, that's not moving around at all. That's staying the same. Those are the measurements that we took.
Yeah, it doesn't match what's there.
Hi, my name is Lou DeCunto from DBI Development. I'm the contractor. And I did an as-built of what the outside shell is. And that's the vestibule that depicted is what's there. You show something different from a different,
I'm looking at the street view right now. You've got,
Referencing the door, so these two are doors as well. That's what it is.
oh. The intent was not to change the doors that are to exit the building. Enter and exit the building. The vestibules would remain.
okay.
This is just a depiction of what could be there. It's still supposed to be architectural drawings that have to be drawn.
Mhm. Okay. And then parking doesn't change. The drive-through gets enclosed.
There'll be one lane open in the farthest.
On the far side to
Yeah.
bypass it.
Yes.
I see. Okay. What other changes? I mean, you have the floor plan here, but there's no other facade changes. Are you
We don't want to.
painting anything or doing
No, I would
anything?
never paint that building. No.
So,
No painting. It'd be all brick, nothing changing whatsoever.
okay,
Obviously, landscaping will be upgraded. That'll be done. The parking lot will be repaired and sealed and lined.
there is definitely a valid concern over the use on the exterior. If there's any type of a state to Commissioner Nielsen's point, if there's a requirement on outdoor pet area and how that's handled on this site and where it would be handled.
Okay.
Obviously, that would be a big concern for the commission as to where that ends up and whether we want to even see that or not.
Okay.
Would you be okay with a condition on if it was to go to approval, a condition that if there is an outdoor pet area required, that you'd have to come back to us?
Sure.
Okay. And are you going to be the operator or is there someone else that's going to be operating?
Rating.
I see.
There'll be a New Canaan resident.
Commissioners, anything further? Okay, Mr. Engel, welcome. I don't think we have anything else on this one. Are you guys good?
Yeah.
Do we have anyone from, this is public, right?
No, this
Oh,
is
is just
site
site
plan,
plan.
so you all can vote now because you're in the non-public hearing portion of the meeting.
Do I have a motion from anyone on this one?
So can I just bring up the point? I just wanted to make sure it was clear in my memo that I provided. The zoning regulations do not address grooming services whatsoever. And so if the commission determines that this is an appropriate use, whether you call this a service establishment, a personal service establishment, or however you're defining it, that means that this is an appropriate use anywhere in business A. That's what you all are determining.
Can you help us understand it? What is the zoning of the current pet establishments in town?
So essentially, there was, it's a bit complicated. So technically right now, zoning regulations don't even permit veterinary offices. They were permitted in the 90s. You had the zoning reg update in the mid 2000s. You removed that language from it. So technically those are all legally non-conforming. The commission in 2014 had a discussion on grooming services, and they said it was an appropriate use in business B because it could fall under the category of more intense service establishment. And outside of that, there hasn't really been any discussion. Pet Pantry received approval because it's retail, not because it provides grooming services. And I actually went back into their approval from 2010. They didn't actually mention that they were doing grooming services in their application. So it's kind of become this gray area in the regulations. Business A permits service establishments and personal service establishments, and I'm happy to pull up that definition if it's helpful, but I just want to make sure the commission recognizes the decision they're making before they make the decision.
Yeah, and I think that's an important point because I don't know if anyone else is looking at the zoning map, but business B, where the current grooming is allowed, is just the Cross and Beatty area. So it's a pretty
Correct.
localized area of town. Business D, no, C, D. Yeah, business D, which is where Pet Pantry
Yes.
is also a very localized area, but business A is basically, extends all around the magic circle in downtown. It's everything that surrounds Wheat and Elm. So it's a larger area that you're considering permitting
Mhm.
this in.
There was one other facility on Forest that I think is closed now, another place, but it had
Pet value.
Mhm.
value that was also grooming.
Yes. So I think that also predated a lot of the zoning reg changes that happened in the mid 2000s.
Okay.
And that was retail B.
Yep.
Business D, and we also had the pet store that was in business A, which was off of Cherry Street, but I don't think they did any grooming.
Yeah, and I don't think the retail component is in question here. I think you could have a retail pet store
Yep.
anywhere. It's really the grooming.
And is the grooming an essential component of this?
No, it's ancillary,
Okay, so you'd
secondary.
still want the pet store even if you couldn't have the grooming.
No, we want grooming as well,
It's an all or nothing then.
please.
So I did previously, when I spoke to the applicant before they submitted a formal application, I thought it may be appropriate to have a formal text change because the regulations do not address it. And elsewhere in our regulations, it says if a use is not explicitly permitted, then it's not permitted. So I did think that that was a more appropriate avenue to just clarify the gray area. But if the commission's comfortable calling it a service establishment, then I don't think there is a need to drag this out further.
Commissioners?
I mean, my only issue is, like I stated, if there is a requirement that there's some sort of outdoor space holding dogs, I don't think this or most of business A is an appropriate location for that.
Right.
So other than that, I don't really have an issue with grooming if everything's contained indoors. Nobody's going to hear barking dogs and whatnot outside, I would assume.
Agreed.
Potentially, does that mean that anybody in service A could open a pet grooming?
Business A, yeah.
Technically, yeah.
So that would be a concern that I would have.
And I'm sure it's a pretty hot business. I mean, we've got all these mobile groomers, but we don't have a whole lot
No.
of stationary.
Is there a difference between pet boarding and pet grooming in the Connecticut code?
I think so.
No.
I believe so. Additionally, this is where we should really have definitions for this, and we in general should really address this more specifically on our regulation since there are so many pets in New Canaan, but we don't have any definitions right now, so we would have to default to what's listed in a state code if there is one.
Commissioner Chris, the issue of service establishment becomes well, what does that mean? And I just worry that this becomes a term that gets interpreted and reinterpreted.
Would you like me to pull up the definition that we have?
Say again?
Would you like me to pull up the definition that we have for service establishment? Can everyone read that?
Oh, yeah, you expect me to read that? Just go to my own version.
I think that's as big as I can make it.
Essentially, it says anything that's not a product being sold unless it falls into one of these terms. Anything else qualifies as service establishment, is the way it's defined by exclusion.
Right, because those are heavier industry type things that will have more of an impact on the surrounding neighborhood.
Laundries, dry cleaning, also you have chemical issues.
Right.
Undertakers, chemical issues.
And then unfortunately, you have the caveat at the end or comparable uses. So is
Yeah.
dog grooming as as intensive a use as laundries and dry cleaning?
Or is it more akin to nail care?
So that is personal service establishment. Both are permitted uses in business A.
So personal means human service establishment, I would assume.
Well, it says there, it says cleaning of servicing of items owned by or being provided to the customer. So you could argue that a dog is owned by the customer.
I kind of lean towards where Sarah's coming from, that if
Definition.
I don't necessarily have an issue with this, again, assuming there's no outdoor space, but I do think we should be updating our zoning regulations to explicitly make it an allowed use as opposed to just kind of saying, well, it doesn't say anything, so we can do it.
I would agree with Commissioner Nielsen is that Ms. Carey, you suggested originally that maybe a text change would be appropriate. I would sort of lean towards that. Be my view on this. I'm not against dog grooming. But especially if there has to be some outdoor, dogs being housed outdoors, at least for a while. I deplete ignorance on that, but I think more precision would be useful, and I think a text change would be the appropriate way to address that. That's my view.
We could do that with the exclusion of any kind of outdoor facility for the dogs, correct? I would go that route as well. And we've already, by definition of either service establishment or personal service establishment, if you're looking at our zoning map, on Burtis Avenue, we've got the business A zone back there, and that's filled with dry cleaners and laundry and
The
such,
forge,
even the forge.
the forge.
Yeah, but those are
Heavy equipment.
pre-existing.
I understand.
They may be
Non-conforming uses.
pre-existing, but
But is that not business B?
That's
that
business
area?
A.
Oh, is it? Okay.
And again, I plead ignorance on whether animals may be outdoors. For example, let's say the owner doesn't come back for some reason, and the dog is over there a certain number of hours. I just don't know. I can see that happening, assuming there's some time limit.
But that's what I'm
And
concerned
then
about.
the animal has to be kept outside for recreation, has to be walked maybe.
Mhm.
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking at a OLR research report about dog grooming in Connecticut, and it says Connecticut regulations for grooming establishments, which are in CGS 22-344. And it goes through the requirements of the room, the wall, ceiling, and floors, how the grooming equipment has to be cared for, the size of the drying cages, exercise area and keeping of dogs overnight. Grooming facilities that keep dogs for grooming longer than 4 hours must have an indoor or outdoor. Okay, so it could be indoor. Exercise area, the exercise area must measure at least
So-
3 feet by 8 feet.
We could handle that.
You can handle that.
That building is big enough.
Dogs cannot be kept overnight unless the
No,
facility
we
meets
will
certain
not
kennel.
keep any dogs overnight. We will be open just during the day.
Krista, are you referring to I'm just looking at a document here, this state of Connecticut regulation from the Department of Agriculture concerning,
No, this is the Office of Legislative Research report. It's from 2006, so it's probably somewhat dated.
this is 2021.
Okay.
It seems to distinguish kennels from dog grooming.
Yeah, and I don't doubt that there's a
Differences
distinct
between
Yeah.
difference, regulatory difference between the two. But in order to move this one forward, I think if we're going down the road of approval on this, we can condition it that there's no outdoor pet exercise area as part of this, that it would all have to be contained within the building.
And then how do you feel about a text amendment?
We can do it as a text amendment as well and include the dog grooming as part of the zone. That's fine.
So I would just say that, procedurally, the commission either finds that this can be classified as a service establishment and place the condition on it, as you said, or if you don't think it is, it probably shouldn't be approved because then it's not explicitly permitted in the regulations, and then you would need a text change to even approve it. So
So then we should move forward with a text amendment.
So then, does that mean
Has
we
to
have
be
to
noticed.
deny this application because
have
there's
them
no,
resubmit?
We'd have to notice and then pass that. Then they would reapply. I believe that's the procedure.
And would that text amendment allow the same services throughout all Service A?
so that's where, the commission would have the discretion to refine it as they see fit.
Just one thought, because that's a great location for this particular
Yeah,
type of service. But with that outdoor space, this is one that could probably handle having an outdoor space, whereas other places in town wouldn't be able to have an outdoor space, and maybe some verbiage about having an outdoor space. I don't know if that's a positive thing for the town or a negative thing, but maybe that would help regulate it to not go
Well, so there are,
through.
if there is a actual text amendment on the table, you could say, it's only permitted on parcels of a certain size that are able to accommodate outdoor, areas or whatever. So you do have the discretion to refine it as you see fit if there is a text amendment on the table, which there isn't right now. So you have to make your decision based on what's in the regulations right now.
I mean, I think it's difficult to make a decision when the regulations appear silent on it. So, to be fair to the applicant, they can't conform to regs that don't exist. So it does appear that within the state statutes here, they appear to define grooming facilities, kennels, training facilities fairly succinctly. So would there be a parallel approach where we could go ahead and approve via special permit and conditions to confine it to the grooming facilities here as defined, and then pursue a text amendment that's more holistic and kind of evaluates whether training facilities and the grooming and the kennel should be considered, because I feel like it's a lot to digest in one evening.
So unfortunately, because they have the site plan on the table as is, if you don't make a decision and 65 days pass, it's automatically approved. So you do have to make a decision, and you can't grant someone approval for something that's not in the regulations. So right now, if you're saying that this is not a service establishment and we need to address this in the zoning regulations, you can't provide someone an approval for something that's not in the regulations yet. So you can't, does that make sense?
So in essence, we'd have to define it as a service establishment in the interim.
Yep.
With these special conditions until we further define what the service establishment is.
Yes, but if you go that route, you have to keep in mind that means anywhere service establishments are allowed in theory, dog
Yeah.
grooming businesses are permitted.
which would mean sort of the middle of Elm Street, or.
So just
or
by
near
just
it.
by providing one special permit, you've in theory corrupted your entire
So
your
this
entire
isn't,
code.
this is a site plan, not a special permit. So yes,
Yeah.
if one use is, so with site plans, if a use is permitted via site plan in a zone, it's permitted everywhere in that zone. So in theory, you could have, on all of Elm Street, you could have a clothing store in every single business because it's permitted via site plan. That's,
But if the application were submitted as a special permit, we could approve it as a special permit and it wouldn't have that cascading effect.
no, so the zoning regulations still have to say via special permit, this use is permitted, which
Yeah.
it doesn't say right now. So you can't approve it if it doesn't say it in the regs.
Sounds like we don't have a choice but to go ahead and deny tonight and amend the text, do a text amendment on the regulation to allow it.
Unless you all are comfortable with dog grooming businesses being
Hmm.
permitted wherever service establishments are permitted. Those are your two
I
options.
mean, how many times have people requested a grooming service in New Canaan?
I mean, I'm,
And where they have a location that's on our size?
I mean, I don't have an exact number, but you're not the first person that's asked me, that's come to my office, and I've given them the same answer and they've walked away.
Mr. Chairman, my preference would be to define service establishment, particularly a pet grooming, more precisely, so that we can, perhaps with being approved, be able to approve them through a special permit, so that we can be more confident in exactly where is an appropriate place in our downtown area for such establishments, which I think
would
is where
agree.
we're going with this. I'm not against the new business, nothing I'm hearing. I simply think that from an administrative point of view, we want to be more precise.
Precise, but also maintain a certain level of control and input on each specific site's application.
Which would be an outcome of the precision. Yeah, I would agree, Mr. Chairman.
It wouldn't specifically help to define it as staying inside the space, inside the building? That wouldn't open the door for other places of similar size not be able to have their,
I mean, on Elm Street, they're not the size of our building. I mean, how could they maintain?
But the
in
point is,
our-
our zoning ordinance are silent on grooming. Your pet store is fine. That's not the issue.
No, I
The
understand.
grooming.
Yeah.
We don't have any regulations to say this is okay or not okay.
How did we approve the one next door?
Pet pantry?
Didn't have grooming.
Well, it does though.
It does now.
Disclose it in the application. I reviewed the whole process in 2010. They just said that they were a retail pet store.
And I don't know if they always did. I feel like it's a more recent addition that they put those rooms in.
What if we approve the pet supply, get that approved first, and we apply in the interim as well to get the text amendment change?
We could do, right?
We
Yeah.
could do that.
So we could approve it without the grooming tonight, and then you could come back at a
Sure.
later time once we've fixed the text amendment.
Sure.
That could work.
Not opposed to a pet supply, it's just a retail establishment.
Right.
Fine.
We have retail establishments throughout that zone. It's not a service establishment, it's a retail
how do we
establishment. You're
navigate
selling
that?
goods and goods.
Someone could just make a motion to approve the retail component and, or, just approve it with the condition that grooming is not permitted without a text amendment.
Do I hear a motion?
I can make a motion. It's Chris Herring making a motion to approve the application and limit the application to a retail pet store at this time until further subsequent developments. Anyone second?
Just as Commissioner Chris, I'll second.
Is that sufficient in terms of the approval language? Okay. Call to vote. Danny Radman, I vote yes. Krista Nielsen,
Yes.
John Chris,
Yes.
Chris Herring,
Yes.
John Engel,
Yes.
Alan Swerdlow,
yes.
Christina Larson.
Yes.
Okay. Approved for now.
Very much.
Thank you. Next application is 884 Smith Ridge Road. Upon application of Alfred Delicata, authorized agent for John A. Marciano, trustee, owners for a special permit approval pursuant to section 3.4.C.2 to allow for an illuminated batting cage in the 4-acre zone at 884 Smith Ridge Road, map 40, block 135, lot 12.
They requested an extension to the January 28th meeting. I spoke with the town attorney because you have time to give them, you have to give them the extension.
Oh, okay.
If we repeat that, if we have the time to,
Basically, you get up to 65 days worth of extensions to give an
I thought
applicant.
we've already expired through, we've gone through the
Yeah.
65.
We have not.
We have not.
No, I did the math today.
We're at 64.
When we get to January 28th, we'll be at 56. So that will be the last.
I thought we've been talking about this application for like 3 sessions now.
Basically, application gets submitted, you have 65 days to open the application, you then have 35 days to close it, but you can have up to 65 additional days to continue it. So January 28th is the last of the extensions, and then
Okay, so continued,
That's D-Day.
continued to January 28th.
and they have not submitted any of the material you all have
I
requested,
don't
so.
expect to see it. Okay. 1757 Ponus Ridge. Upon application of, oh, well, why don't you take over here?
Okay.
Reading my own notes.
Are you gonna
I have to
recuse yourself?
I have to recuse myself. I'm the architect on this project, so I'll sit quietly.
Myself as well.
Okay, does that leave enough people? One,
One,
two,
two,
three.
three,
Yeah, we'll
four,
have 5.
people.
Everyone else is good on this one? We're still in the special meeting, I believe. So this is 1757 Ponus Ridge. Upon application of Ted Seipel Renaissance Partners LLC, authorized agent for David Wincourt owners for special permit approval pursuant to sections 3.4.C.3, 3.4.C.6, and 3.4.C.7 to allow the reconstruction of an existing antique barn that will create a detached residential accessory structure in the front yard less than 75 feet from the property line and greater than 1,000 square feet of building coverage in the 2-acre zone at 1757 Ponus Ridge, map 28, block 207, lot 4. Okay. What do we have here for the applicant?
Hi there. So our intent here is to,
Sorry, can you just state your name?
I'm
quickly?
sorry, Ted Sliple,
Okay.
representative for the owners. Our intent here is to replicate the barn as closely as possible, but with providing them some additional space. This proposed structure will be the exact same height, size, within the setbacks. We'll maintain we want to maintain the current properties as closely as we possibly can, while providing the owners some additional space within the structure. And all of the additional space that we're asking for will appears at the back within the setbacks of the property. Our intent really is the existing structure is no longer structurally sound. We're going to take that down. We'd love to reuse it, but we simply can't at this point. It's beyond its useful life. We're going to rotate the structure slightly to align with the front of the house more properly in the front yard and maintain its position.
Okay.
Real quick, Rob Frangione Engineering. We have designed a septic system for this barn. The drainage design is going to be in the lawn area. We've got some Coltex to handle the runoff. Maria Koplitz approved the engineering plans. Health Department has approved the septic plan, and wetlands has signed off on it. So there's really a lot to this.
So from looking at the plans, it doesn't appear there's a second, I mean, it's, I don't know how tall the structure is. It looks like it could have a second floor, but there's no second.
There's
floor
no
in
second
here.
floor, correct?
This is the section. Or the,
Okay, so it's just taller.
It's just tall, correct. It does not exceed its current height. So
Right.
we maintain that current height.
Commissioners, other questions?
How big is the structure that you are removing? The historic barn? And how many square feet is the new barn?
I could tell you that the footprint of the old barn is about 600 square feet. And the new footprint with the two is about 1,100, because there's about, I'm sorry, let me,
New footprints,
hold on.
new footprint is we're adding 215.
Because the increase in
No.
impervious area is like only about 1,100 square feet, 1,200 total, and that's including the patio that's coming off the back of the barn. So, yeah, when it's all said and done.
I'm less concerned with the patio and imperviousness. I'm wondering why we can't replace a 600-foot barn with a 1,000 and not ask for, and not go beyond the 1,000-foot limit.
So they require a special permit, not only for that, but because there's a kitchen in the pool house, so it's an ADU. And then it's also, it's considered an accessory structure in the front yard. So we advise the applicant, if you're already going for the special permit, might as well just ask for everything and see what you get.
No, I understand that we always have to ask for special permits when we put things in the front yard. And I understand that we're replacing a non-conforming antique barn with a new barn. But I wondered why we couldn't keep it within the 1,000-foot, which is the intent of the regulations that we allow people 1,000-foot or less accessory dwellings. It's not an historic structure. You're not keeping any aspect of the old barn, right?
Correct. Right. It's structurally deficient. Like it's basically a good windstorm away from falling down. I mean, there's nothing to say. Just because something's old, doesn't make it historic.
Right now, the only thing that's holding it up is the additional cladding that was put on a couple years ago. Put it that way.
Yeah.
And I think the reasoning behind this really is just to provide that additional space, knowing that it is towards the rear of the property. It's well screened. It is not in the way of it is not perceivable from the street or the neighbors.
I guess I'm confused as to where it is on that.
So this kind of shows the overlay. Basically, this rectangle here is the existing barn. And the heavy, I'm gonna call that blue line. Oops, I'm trying to blow it up a little more. Is the new. So you can see this faint outline is the existing barn. And the new barn is going right back where the existing, it's not coming any closer to the street. We're holding that corner of the existing barn and everything's going back into the property.
Can I get a clarification on this, Commissioner Swerdlow? So you say the existing historic barn is dotted in here as a rectangle?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, I just want to make sure I see that.
If you go to,
I have the documents in front of me.
So this drawing here, this is the existing survey.
Yeah, I've seen that. Okay.
Yeah. So that's the current barn location. And it's got this concrete pad in front. And septic's gonna go up here and the drainage is gonna go back here. And there's all big robust trees along the property line. And where I designed the Cultex was to keep the drainage in the lawn so that we don't disturb the screening that's already there. Same thing with the septic. I put the septic in an area that we don't have to take down any trees. So the new barn location holds this same corner here.
Okay. And
it literally projects back into the property. So it's not coming any closer to the street.
okay, I see two dotted lines, but they're not really structural lines from the structure. One goes off to the left, one goes up. But that I'm not that concerned about that. So this is 1,215 square feet, the new proposed structure. And a question about the old structure. You call it a historic barn. What's historic about it?
We didn't call it historic.
Well, I heard that
Someone called it historic. It's not, nothing that we had, nothing that we can find is historic about the structure currently. It's currently old.
When was it built?
That's currently in question. We've done our research. We've gone to the Preservation Society. I've combed through all of the permits and all of the paperwork that the owners had when they purchased the property. I can't find a date that's been attached to this.
The tax assessor records say 1961.
61. There's a hayloft in it, or a hayloft type of door at top.
Correct.
Is that just a decorative piece? So there was really never a hayloft.
No, in fact, the current structure is completely wide open on the inside as well.
Right.
There was a loft that someone installed at one point, and at one point someone did have plumbing in there.
Yeah.
There's currently electric to the property. I wouldn't stand on the loft if I were a betting man.
I stuck my head in, we were doing test holes and I was like, yeah.
Did you actually hire an architect? Oh, no, sorry. It's in the room.
Yes.
So you're proposing something that's somewhat rectilinear that bears, is on the same grid as the house and the pool.
Right.
And that then defines the pool as an outdoor space with two edges on it. Or actually 4 edges on it, so it's kind of almost like an outdoor room. What zoning regulation are we asking to deal with here? I know it was said, but.
Yep, so essentially it's accessory structure in the front yard, accessory dwelling unit because there's the kitchen, full bath and bedroom. And then also any accessory structure over 1,000 square feet in building coverage requires a special permit.
It's special permit. Okay, it's,
All three of those things require a special permit.
got it. All right. Yeah, thank you.
Of course.
Can this be located in the backyard? Does it have to be, I mean, if we're gonna exceed the 1,000 foot limit, is there any reason we have to be also encroaching on the front yard? Is there another place to put this?
The septic system, existing septic system is over here for the main house. And behind this picket fence is where the wetlands are. So we would then be getting a lot closer to the wetlands. So it really makes sense to go where the current barn is.
Can you go to the, I had a similar question. It looks like a nice design, but can you go to the bigger site plan
You mean my site plan or?
or the zoning location survey was attached?
Let me see. I mean, I can share.
It just shows the full property.
Let's see, I can show, how about my site plan?
It was attached to the application.
Yeah, let's see. Let's see, let's try this.
Well, there's one that had a little less going on, but
So anyway, back here, this is where the wetland setback line, there's an existing stormwater detention system for the main house. This fence is the existing fence, which basically acts as a buffer back here to this area. There's a wall here, patio here, existing septic over here. I mean, it really just makes sense, in my opinion, to keep the barn where it is. We're not coming closer to the street than it is now. It complies with setbacks for the zone. And all of the activity in the front yard is actually going into the property. It's not like we're extending it further towards the street. So let me see if I can pull up the survey, because I see what you mean. My drawings have a lot of information on them because there's a lot of information required on. I don't know if I have just the survey though. That's the only thing.
it was just the site plan.
Yeah, I don't.
Are you saying there's no record of that barn being constructed?
Did you find, I didn't find one.
No, so the field card for the property just notes that the accessory structure was built in 1961. But I did a search of the property. We don't have any records of building permits dating back to then. So that's all the information I found.
This was ELS. It's got a few less things.
That was what I was, this one
Okay.
here is helpful because it just shows that if you were to kind of mirror the location of the current building on the other side of the pool, it seems like there's still a fair amount of room within the setback.
Again, if you were to, there's an existing stormwater detention system for the house right here. So if we were to take this entire barn, pick it up and plop it right here, we would then have to move the stormwater detention system. This is the wetland limit. This dashed line. So then we start going into the 50-foot upland review limit to the wetlands. That's all heavily wooded. So that's more disturbance proximate to the wetlands. This layout has no impact to a wetland or watercourse. Now, I know that's not your purview, but that's one of the
No,
reasons.
it's helpful to understand the rationale. Because, all things being equal, most people like to have their pool houses in the backyard. So it's somewhat unusual to have it in the front yard. So that's the rationale that
Yeah, I think the pool house section of this building is right here, right? Isn't
Correct.
That,
Correct.
which is then you go to the patio and you go downstairs and there's the pool. So it's close to it. It serves that same purpose where it's proximate to the pool. So,
And would the pool house fit behind in the backyard if it was a size that fit within the buildable coverage? And you weren't asking for more?
I mean, could it fit? Sure, you could put anything back here, but I mean, again, the reason we're here is because there's an existing barn that's there now. And what we're just doing is putting back a more modern version of that in the same location and building back into the property.
And also, I would assume, Mr. Frangione, regardless, the existing barn is coming down.
I mean,
It's going to come down on its own.
Right.
So why don't we- And not to be glib about it, but yes, it's unsafe in its current condition.
And is the pool proposed? It's not currently there.
there's a
The pool is
there now.
current.
Oh, it's
Yeah,
currently
it's
there.
existing pool.
So you're trying to get closer to the pool?
Well, we're just trying to get the
Make an
pool house.
extension to
Yeah.
get it a little bit closer, just a changing area in an area for, and double down with an accessory dwelling unit.
So the setback is, I think, 45 on the side here. It looks like the side yard setback. Is that what I'm looking at? And the
It's
front,
actually, I think it's 2 front yard setbacks because it's on a
Yes.
corner, so it's 45 in the front and 45 on the Lake Wind Road side as well.
Yeah, so the existing side yard setback is 35.5 feet. And we're staying at that, well, it's 34.8 to the current corner. And we're 35 plus. And then this little corner here, existing is 35.5, and we're now at 37.5. So it is a little bit, by rotating the building to match the dimensions of the house, that pulls this corner further away from the property line.
but you could, I'm also wondering why you wouldn't shuffle it, letting, if the building's being torn down entirely, why wouldn't you just shift the building 5 feet to the left, or as we're looking at it now, and have it within the setbacks?
Because then what happens is this is the front property line. So if you were to take this line here and move it over 5 feet, now we're closer to the street. So now the whole thing needs to get moved closer to the pool.
Got it. So it would move 5 feet towards the pool and 5 foot in, and that hurts the design.
And so just to be clear for the commission, if they were just tearing down the barn and rebuilding in the same footprint, this would not be going to the commission. It wouldn't need a variance. They would just be permitted to do it as of right. So that front half of the structure, while, is a subject to the special permit because of all the other factors, they could in theory do that without any additional approvals.
Right. So to Sarah's point, really what we're talking about is this portion of the house or of the building. Because this rectangle is essentially the same as as the existing rectangle. So.
But you are asking to double the size of it, so
Right, but it does comply with, like we said, all the coverage, setbacks, all those things. it
I
complies
get it.
with,
I'm just
so
saying, trying to
It's just
be devil's advocate on that. Okay. Thank you.
Commissioners, any other questions?
Will there be I don't see a basement,
No basement.
no basement, okay.
Slab on grade.
Lighting, any downcast lighting? Because that's often, so what I mean.
Sconces only.
Scott, so what tends to sometimes cause concern is excessive lighting or with neighbors. And so I just don't see any lighting design as to, are there downcast lights versus floodlights pointing out to the neighbors, which would be kind of frowned upon.
We don't plan on adding any floodlights, certainly a sconce that we could make sure would be down sighting. Down, pointing down.
Do you all have any images of the view from Lake Wind Road or whatever that street is called? Because I think that may be helpful for that commission to see, how well screened.
So
area is.
this piece here. So if you imagine, so these trees back here, like that's what's facing Lake Wind. That's the side part. We're keeping all those. So you can see it's very well screened.
Do you plan on doing any more landscaping on the front side, on the Ponus side?
On the Ponus Ridge side?
Yeah.
This is an older photo. They're currently you can see them, they're either, the trees just on the inside of the picket fence are currently tall, are much taller. And we had a conversation with the owners. We're going to try to preserve those. And if not, we'll certainly replant them. They're equally concerned with screening from Ponus Ridge.
These trees.
Those trees, correct. Currently much taller. Those are all 10 to 12 feet currently. We're gonna take those, replant them, reuse them if we can. If not, we'll replant the screening from the street.
Okay, but isn't Ponus Ridge the side with the two, what I see as the front of this?
This,
the two
this
wings?
photo was taken from Ponus Ridge's
Right,
perspective.
so do you plan on doing anything between the old new barn and Ponus Ridge?
Not currently.
The septic system's gonna go right. So you see this wall that my cursor is on? It's gonna
Yeah.
be basically 10
Right
feet on the
behind
other
it.
side of that wall. It's only a little 20-foot long septic. It's not very big. And then there's a large tree looking at this photo to the right of it. So I made sure I kept the septic in an area where I didn't have to take that tree down. So
Sarah, do we have any regulation with it being an ADU? Do we refer to this as an ADU? And does it require a covered parking place?
So by definition, it is an ADU because of the full kitchen, but we do not have a requirement for covered parking.
I could just have this conversation in the discussion part, but while you're still here, I can still have it and you can correct any of these facts. I'm having a tough time with the fact that what I hear you saying is you can do this within the 1,000 feet and you can move this to a different part on the property. The challenge is that you'd be not in the wetlands, correct me if I'm wrong, but you'd be in the wetland setback, the wetland impact zone.
upland review limit.
Yeah, that upland review limit. So we're also not calling this historic. So therefore, we're not trying to save anything historic here. So it can be moved anywhere on the property. And I think that what you're telling me is that there are paths toward getting closer to within the regulations, if not entirely within the regulations. I just think that it's all three asks for something in the front yards on 2 street frontages is just a whole lot to ask for. And if I'm missing something here, you gotta let me know. I'm the curmudgeon who challenges these, and he'll tell you, I challenge these all the time when people want to put ADUs in the front yard. I have a tough time with that generally, so I'm not just picking on you.
We've discussed accessory structures in the front yard before on other applications. If there wasn't a barn there now, I'd say, yeah, there's an argument there.
But that's a cute diminutive 600-foot barn that looks like a barn,
right.
and you're going to build a house.
But it's going to be essentially the same. Imagine looking at this, but then there's an addition going off the back. That's really, when you boil it all down, that's what, so it's going to be the same height. It's going to be pretty much the same look. So to the streetscape, you know, you're really not going to be seeing what's going on. The people who are going to see this are the homeowners. There's a building there now. The special permit criteria doesn't prohibit anything over 1,000 square feet from being in this area. What the criteria says is, if you want to do this, you got to check a bunch of boxes, and we check all the boxes. So I don't think that, in my opinion, that the commission shouldn't look at this as, oh, you got to stay at 999 square feet. We're not going to approve a single thing. You know, because what you're saying is we're not going to approve any special permits. And so I think the fact that there's a barn here now, we comply with all the bulk requirements. It's a benign use. I think it complies with the special permit criteria.
But I think you have place in other places that you could put. If you want to be over 1,000 feet, there's other places it could be. And if you wanted to be only 1,000 feet, then it's probably appropriate where you've located it.
But again, I don't think that's what the intent of the regulation was. I don't think the intent of the regulation is, if you want to have a 1,200, 1,500, 2,000 square foot building, find someplace else to put it. The question is, this is the application that's before you. It's a good application. It's a sound application. It meets all the criteria of the town. 3 other town agencies have reviewed this and approved it for their specific thing.
Exceeds our criteria in 3 ways, and I'm asking you to try and get to where it exceeds our criteria in maybe 1 or 2.
So I think, so,
Yeah.
yeah, I think we're getting variances and special permits a little mixed up. So this to me sounds more like a variance discussion where if you weren't meeting the requirements, why couldn't you put a structure in this location instead? Because you have a hardship, because there are wetlands. That's not what a special permit conversation is. Our regulations state that you can have an accessory structure over 1,000 square feet in building coverage. You can have an accessory dwelling unit and you can have a structure in the front yard. You just need a special permit and you need to confirm that the development that it will meet the special permit criteria and won't have adverse impacts on adjacent properties. I think we've, discussed this issue in other matters that were somewhat similar over the last year with some cases that we had to settle. So yeah, so I just want to make sure that we're separating special permits from variances and that it's not allowed, it's just you need a special permit to be able to do it.
Right, so really what we should be looking at are the criteria for special permits and whether this application, in your opinion, checks those boxes. Is this a suitable location? Is this appropriate improvements? Those types of questions. Commissioners, do we have other comments? Okay, do we have anyone from the public that would like to speak on this application? Can you check Zoom, please?
Yep, could we just actually officially switch over to the
Oh,
7
all
o'clock
right.
meeting before?
Vote to adjourn this one and then.
Yeah, and then we'll just, yeah.
Okay. Can I have a motion to adjourn this meeting so we can start the 7 o'clock meeting? All right. Ms. Larson and Mr. Engel. All right, so this meeting, the 6 o'clock special meeting is adjourned. And now we're going to open the 7 o'clock regular meeting of the Planning and Zoning Commission. Do I have to do roll call and all that again?
No, we can just carry that over since we have it noted.
All right, so roll call is all the same. We're now in the 7 o'clock meeting. This is the application for 1757 Ponus Ridge. And so now if there's anybody from the public either in the room or on Zoom that wants to speak to this application, this is your opportunity.
There's no one on Zoom.
Okay, nobody's on Zoom.
Or actually, I will just note that we did receive an email this morning from an adjacent neighbor that said that they were unable to attend the meeting. I don't know if everyone had the chance to look at it, but they are the neighbors to the property on 1757 Ponus. And they wanted to just provide the following comment that they wanted to highlight the importance of the historic barn, the first recording studio in Connecticut. It should not be demolished, but restored and incorporated into the project. We don't have any other objection to the size or location of the project.
Did you find any information about a recording studio? in
We
your
have
research?
not found, a quick Google search indicates that the first recording studio is currently indicated in Walcott, Connecticut. So I haven't found any significance to that currently. We did reach out to the New Canaan Preservation Society. It doesn't ring any bells with her, but all of her records are currently in the process of being moved to their new location. So she wouldn't have that availability tomorrow. But the owners also asked to do research prior to them purchasing it. They couldn't find anything that was of historical significance. So the structure is old. We don't doubt that.
Have
I
you
haven't found any-
filed for demolition?
I'm sorry?
Have you filed for a demolition?
not.
permit? Okay, so I was just wondering if anyone objected and wanted the 90-day.
We haven't filed yet.
Okay.
Blow on it.
I'm telling you, it's spooky.
Okay, commissioners, are we prepared to close this application?
Well, I just wanted to get a little more
Yeah.
clarity on the special permit. I'm looking back at our regs and it says the ADUs are available by a special permit, but the permit that the ADU should be within or attached to the main dwelling and it shouldn't exceed 1,000 feet. And I also feel like a lot of the special permit is are you kind of improving things in the current state? So I just wonder is the application improving the situation for the neighborhood? And I just want to understand in what way is the application improving it for the town or improving it for the neighborhood? And from a use perspective, it does say it has to be used by the principal residents.
The structure right now is literally decrepit.
Yeah.
It is something that the current floor is wood plank over simply a dirt crawl space.
Yep.
You cannot walk in it. And and it is structurally unsound. We explored trying to save it. I would love to save it. I was involved in a couple historic, the chapel on Ponus Ridge, we were involved in that. We were able to do whatever we could there. And we've been involved in a couple of the other projects that are in town. I'd love to save this thing. It is not, in my opinion, feasible. So from an improvement standpoint, we're putting up a structure that would mimic or come as closely as possible to this, with the addition closer to that backyard. So from a street side, again, we maintain the current view and something that's not going to fall down, hopefully the next time we have a decent storm.
And by rotating the building, it pulls the side of the building further away from the property line than current. So that's an
Okay. And then-
increase in setback.
Will, that's actually very helpful. So you're actually pulling it further away from the neighbor's property, for example, so that's considered an improvement. And then will the mechanicals also be on the inside of the building and not on the outside of the
Yes.
building? So there won't be any air handlers on the outside, or?
It'll be an air
Okay.
handle and the outside it'll be inside those setbacks. So it won't be infringing on the neighbors.
It won't be, I don't see how that's possible, honestly.
It's not going to be over in this area.
We won't issue a permit for them to be in the setback, so they'll have to be,
So it'd have
you
to
know,
be,
interior to
the
the,
mini split with the air handler would have to be on the patio or
Or over here.
Or-
Over there,
Yeah, on this side of the building.
well screened.
yeah, we just naturally put it on the back side, so I'd be surprised if you want to put it on the front side, but, okay.
And just to clarify, Mr. Herring, the part of the zoning regulations you're looking at that say it has to be attached to the main dwelling unit, that's for a site plan or a zoning permit. Special permit says they can be detached and still meet. those
yeah, and that they can exceed 1,000 square feet.
Right. So if you scroll down to section C where it's permitted by special permit, you'll see that you can have. Oops, I'm even in the wrong section. Never mind.
Section C5,
3.4C goes through detached accessory residential structures is number 3. Accessory structures in a front yard is number 6, and accessory buildings that exceed 1,000 square feet is number 7. So it's page 55, zoning regulations. But it does reference back to some of the other conditions that you're reading there where it has to be attached. The only thing that changes is it doesn't have to be attached. You're doing a special permit. All right, commissioners, are we ready to close this application? Do you have any other questions or conditions you want to throw by the applicant before we do close it?
so would you be all right with a condition that the mechanicals can't be in the setback?
Yes.
I will say that's just redundant because we can't issue a permit for mechanicals in the setback.
Okay.
They won't get approval, so.
It makes it a no-brainer.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I just,
Sorry, Chris.
no, I'll be interested to see how it. Go ahead, it's fine.
Okay, this application is closed.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Share.
All right. Mr. Chairman, one last application.
Next application is 52 Hawthorne Road. Upon application, David Rucci, Lampert Tui Rucci LLC, authorized agent for Chris Link, owner, for a site plan and special permit approval pursuant to section 8.2.b and 3.7.e to allow for building coverage to be exceeded by 356 square feet in exchange for the applicant restricting at least 712 square feet of structure on the property to a height of 18 feet or less as allowable under section 3.5.d in the third acre zone at 52 Hawthorne, map M, block 58, lot M7.
Want to see it on paper, but I don't have to do that. They're nice.
It's online.
I like it. I like it.
Yeah.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, David Rucci. I'm here this evening with Chris and Danielle Link, who are the homeowners on the property, and also with Rick Krug, who's the builder and designer on the property. I know you've seen these applications before under 3.7E. We have roughly a 1931 home on the property. And this application actually was in before we changed the rule, but it is still consistent with the rule once it's been changed. It's a 1931 homestead on 52 Hawthorne Road. It's in the 1/3 acre zone. Just giving you sort of an outline, this is what it looks like from the street. It's got a driveway that sits sort of right on the property line. That garage that you're looking at right now is actually within the setback on this particular piece of property. This is just looking from that garage out into the yard area, which is essentially where this new build is going to go. We're requesting essentially an additional 351 square feet of additional coverage. It's about 14% or so above the coverage amount. And it is, you're allowed 2,498 square feet. This construction is about 552 square feet. So we're asking for an additional 351 square feet. Here's a copy of the map, and I'm just going to show you in the survey the areas that we're looking to restrict. So this was the frame garage that I was talking about before. We're restricting that entire building. There's a porch area here, an overhang porch area, that mudroom that we're going to also be restricting. And then we're also restricting the new build here of 361 square feet. And you can see that we're actually restricting sort of the sides of it. And because what's ended up happening here is that the roof and the cupola on it were actually over 18 feet. So we had to actually take out that portion of the restricted area just to make sure that we can keep the chimney and the cupola in the same place. So here's a picture of the barn. This is looking west, and that's about 442 I'm sorry, the garage that we're going to be restricting. This was the back porch area that we were going to be restricting. And this is essentially the area of 361 square feet that we're putting the addition in. Just to let you know, this house in and of itself is only about 29 feet in height for the zone. So here's some renderings of what this is going to end up looking like. You can see, if I just go back, it's going to come off the back part here on the property. It's going to be a family room, a big family room, great family room for the family. And then they're going to have maybe a small office on the second floor of this, but it's still less than 18 feet. It's a story and a half. This is essentially what it's going to look like. And then, like I said, this area was flagged for us as being over 18 feet, which is why we took it out of the amount that we were encumbering. That being said, there's no way we're going to be able to build up into that area anyway, if we chose to.
Only the cupola.
Yeah. At like that string. So if you kind of look at this piece, see this white part here, this is what we took out.
Strip down the middle.
It was stripped down the middle. I know. Well, it was flagged by the town planner. It was, yeah, we would have had it wrong. So this is some renderings by Rick Krug's team at TR Remodeling. And you can see it's coming off the side of the house. It's going to be connected to this house. The great room's on the first floor, and there's like a little loft on the second floor. This is, once again, renderings of what it looks like sort of from the differing neighboring sides. And I will, these trees are new that are being added here. And I will get to that when I get towards the end of this project. Here's sort of the numbers that I just threw at you before. Existing building coverage, we have about 2,297 square feet. We're proposing somewhere between 551, 552 square feet, which gives us this building coverage of 2,849 on the land record, I'm sorry, on the property. And then that is about 351 square feet more, and we are encumbering 721 square feet, about more, a little bit more than two times that amount. Once again, here's your south view. This is going to be sitting in the back here. You obviously won't be able to see it from the street because this is looking out towards Hawthorne. This is looking towards your neighbor to the east. And also this is where the screening is going to end up going in this particular area here. This is the west view. Obviously, it's just going to look back out at that barn. So it's not really, it's going to fit pretty well into this site. And then this is just looking out the back of the rear of the property. Once again, you're not going to see much from the northern view of the property. Once again, this is what I was talking about earlier. We're going to add about 5 green giant or American pillar. We're not sure exactly what we're going to do yet, but there will be some landscaping put in this area here. Here's your site plan, which is obviously a part of every application for a special permit, just showing you the same areas. Nothing's changing as far as the driveway coming in. Nothing's changing as far as the use of the property. And there's no other building other than the building we're putting here for the 551. Here's your architectural plans. They're actually, can see them a little bit better when we were looking back at the renderings and how that's the areas that are being encumbered. Once again, it's kind of this middle part here. I'm sorry, outside part here that's being encumbered on this side. This is the back porch area. And then this is the rooms itself. So this is sort of your great room here that's going to be accessed from the original home into this area. And then the second floor shows just a little kind of loft area in the top here. I don't have much else. One of the reasons, when we try to encumber these buildings, we always try to encumber the most part we can, anything on the sort of the side property lines, because that keeps it lower. And I think that's what we've been able to achieve that here just by doing the building in the back, the garage, and then also obviously what we're building here. This little piece in the back is not really seen that much except for maybe from this neighbor to the east. Nothing's going to change with respect to the use of the property. As far as it being a single family use, the driveway's not changing. And we are going to be providing some additional screening here on this eastern property line. I don't have anything else unless there's questions from the commission.
Commissioners, any questions?
The applicant object to a additional screening that would be along that entire retaining wall. You have 5, at least pictured. So additional one, so go along the whole wall. So really from most angles, you really couldn't see make the proposed addition less visible.
Yeah, there is.
Could you just come up to the mic? 'Cause we
Chris, can you
can't
come
hear
up for a
you
second?
from
Sorry.
Zoom.
There is a large.
Sorry, you have to
The
turn the
microphone
mic
on.
on. Sorry.
Hold it down.
It's hard.
So it
Harder than it
says,
looks.
There you go. Introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Chris Link, my wife Danielle. Thanks for your consideration. Yeah, there is a large evergreen that's there that you can see now. And then in front of that, there's actually 3 additional ones. We're very happy to put whatever. I had a long conversation with Deborah McIver today. She said, hey, I'm just curious, I'm not gonna be able to go to the meeting. We talked about it at length. She's like, great. I told her why we were doing it. There's an aging parent need for more space. And she said, great. So yeah, whatever we need to do along that side, more than happy to do. It helps everybody.
I'm just looking at your number 7, and there's no indication of what plantings are already there. So I really
Sure.
don't know.
Yeah.
So that's why the
Very,
question
there's,
is,
I don't know if it's wigwamatus, there is a very large, it gets trimmed back once or twice a year. That would probably go to 20 feet if we just left it to the left of the tree. Yeah, and then you see the tree.
Mhm.
So there is coverage there. But yeah, happy to plant whatever.
So
It's not, yeah, go ahead.
foliage that's, screening, certainly it could be left, but that any gaps along that wall could be filled in and would
Sure.
provide some additional screening from really probably one of the more visible neighbors. That's just,
Yep.
you have any objection to that as a
Not at all.
condition, assuming the commission approves this?
Yeah, not at all.
Caveat for the commission that on the rear part of the property, they did need a wetlands permit because there's a kind of drainage ditch that's on an adjacent property. So any plantings back there would have to be subject to the wetlands permit approval. So if for whatever reason there would be an issue with plantings there, that may cause an issue, it may not, but I just wanted to make sure everyone's aware of that.
Yeah, Ms. Carey, understood. This is along the, call it the north-south wall, which would not
Right.
apply
To
in that
that-
case, as
to
I
that.
understand it.
Okay.
Thank you. Yeah, along that wall,
So the eastern wall, I think
as
technically.
opposed to the one with the big tree. That's the wetlands area, as I understand.
The wet,
Okay,
yes.
Where that tree is sitting in the well.
yeah, that area.
That's
Yeah.
wetland.
Yeah, that's my understanding. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
And you've already satisfied for the call tanks or anything for drainage?
Yes, we did, McCord Engineering, civil engineer did a whole drainage soil plan testing, so it's all been complete and approved. Process.
There's a question further on the plantings you just suggested on your 17. What size trees would we put in initially?
Yeah, I mean, we certainly wanted to look consistent and all grow at the same time, so, I don't know that we got to that point, but open to whatever.
When I talked to the person, someone from Rick Cruz's office, they essentially said that these are going to grow, when you install them, they're about 8 feet. When you start, they're going to grow somewhere between 3 and 5 feet a year to mature somewhere around like 25 feet. So I guess the plans are coming here somewhere to be like between 6 and 8 feet to start with.
5 feet a year, they told you?
3 feet a year, 3 to 5 feet a year is what he told me. I guess, to 25 feet.
Okay,
I'm gonna put one right here.
thank you.
Thank you.
Not since Jack and the Beanstalk has anybody promised 5 feet a year. Even 3 feet might be a little aggressive.
Will grow.
One of the cupola is going to stay, as I understand it. Some cupolas are individually lighted.
Yes.
Often for an extended period of time, there can be some light issues with neighbors.
Yep, no, we were not intending to put a light in there, no,
Okay,
just natural sunlight.
it's open to the roof.
That's
The-
that's the intent, yes, to try to get some natural light in.
Light inside the building, it would go up and you could see it through the cupola, but it would not be a light in the cupola.
Correct.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you. The ambient light from the dwelling unit.
Yeah, and I don't think, whether it's a handful of recessed lights or lamps, not really looking to illuminate that area quite a bit.
Sure.
Commissioners, anything further?
Just on the encumbering side. Sarah, just on the encumbering side, I think we've seen some encumbrances that usually cover the main residence, but I haven't seen ones that encumber a garage. So
That was done once, in 2022, you all approved, an application like this where they encumbered an accessory structure. The regulations don't say that you can't do that. So
I just want to make sure that we were covered on that front. So, no, it's a nice structure. I like the preservation of the older streetscape. Looks nice.
Mr. Cruz, again, the cladding will be a wood.
Identical, yeah, identical to everything that's there today.
And the chimney is going to be clad in natural stone?
Yes, there's there's an outdoor fireplace and another chimney. They would all match, all three of them.
Thank you.
Anything further, commissioners? Okay, anything further from your end?
No. Nothing.
Anyone in the audience that would like to speak to this application?
We do.
Who do you? Oh. Please come up to the podium and state your name.
Matt Huffner,
There you go.
and I'm on Woodland Road, 69 Woodland Road, so on the north side. And I think the plan looks lovely. I have no question about the design or the plantings. What I'm concerned about is the water flow. It's very wet there and storms have gone over the whole area, down the wall to my neighbors down from me, which they've couldn't come tonight. So my concern is, and I spoke to Sarah and she said, there's a drain put in behind the garage on that side, which is uphill. So I'm thinking water always finds its source and goes down. And I just want to be, I want to know that the water situation in storms, in bad storms, where it's really been flooded there, the whole area. I want to know that there's some protection there. That's my question and my concern. So
could you, thank you. There is a stormwater management report that was submitted with this.
Correct.
Could you just quickly summarize the findings and the recommendations?
I'd have to ask Rick to do that.
So my one question is, why did you pick to put it behind the garage and not down where the water flows?
Yep.
I mean, I mean that I don't have the engineering background, but you know, I just know that water goes down.
Yeah.
And I'm curious why you put it there and not down.
Twee, I cannot speak to this at all.
Yeah.
But, you know, we had McCord Engineering. They
Yep.
took soil samples from the side of the yard, I believe the front of the yard, in the back of the yard. And they determined that, and again, this is the water that's hitting the roof and, you know, going through the gutters. So to some respect, today, when it just hits that ground, it rolls right off the ground versus, you know, going into a catch basin. So you know, what we had talked about, and again, not knowledgeable at all on this, that actually it would improve the current situation because the water will go into a catch basin versus just rolling down the hill today. So it actually should improve with the new structure. I think they determined based on all their soil samples and testing that this was the best location. And again, knowing that we had wetlands, we went through the whole wetland process. So I can't speak to why, but they looked at 3 alternatives and came up with this as the best location.
If there is flooding and it is not able to management, is there some recourse? Is the firm willing to back up what it does?
Generally speaking, anytime we go in with any sort of application for engineering and drainage needs to be done, you're not allowed to put anything more off the side of the property than what's already flowing off the property. So this particular structure in and of itself cannot allow any more water to come off the property than what's coming off today. That's just the general rule. So whatever's coming off today is technically allowed to come off today. Notwithstanding that, generally when we bring in the engineers, they always improve that situation because they're actually providing drainage now for, it's not going to sheet off this property. There's going to be a structure there, and whatever water comes into the roof or into the gutters has to be handled and controlled, and you can't put anything more off the property. Technically, yeah, I mean, that same sheeting could always still occur even after this project. I mean, you wouldn't be in violation of any engineering rules or town rules. I can tell you that the engineer in our town is very strong and good, and she makes sure that, you know, any project that comes in is really reviewed thoroughly. McCord Engineering, that who's done the work on this property, is, you know, one of the best engineers around. Obviously, if something happens with this after it's approved, yes, you would have recourse against the owner of the property if they were causing some sort of damage to your property, so long as it's something more than what was not already occurring. So obviously, if something's already occurring, there's a problem. Usually when somebody comes in and they put in a new engineering plan and they build something, it almost always makes it better. You know, that's been at least my experience, and my experience with my clients is that it's going to be better, not worse. But that being said, it can always remain the same no matter what's happening. So the fact that maybe something's happening today, you know, I can only imagine it's going to be better. And I know this has already been looked at under the new drainage regulations, which were a lot stronger than they came in July, I think. And they're, you know, one of the strongest in the state, I think, as far as what you have to prove to build any sort of building.
All right. Thank you for listening to me.
Thank you.
How big the Coltech system is underground? How many gallons or how many
I don't
tanks?
know that off the top. of
There's
my head.
nothing in here, right?
They're 18 by 48. There's 16 galleries that are 18 inches by 48
Right.
inches. So, you know, it was reviewed by the town engineer, and it meets the updated drainage policy. So
16 galleries.
16 linear feet of 18-inch by 48-inch concrete galleries.
Commissioner Grizz, my experience, if you have a sloping lawn, it just runs right off. It really doesn't absorb much unless you have half a foot of leaf litter on it, which I doubt there is in this situation. So
To just clarify what the storm management and the engineers were solving for, they're solving for the impermeable area that's being introduced to the site, right? They're not solving for any type of stormwater runoff that already exists because of the pitch of the lawn or the size of the lot or whatever else is happening on site. The applicant, correct me if I'm wrong, right? So the applicant's doing an addition, it's going to produce a certain amount of stormwater. That stormwater going through roof leaders and footing drains and everything else is going to go to these storm galleries to be mitigated. That's what they're solving for.
So any of the rain
Clear it
that
up.
hit the area where the intended structure is going to go, instead of just running off on grass, it would go into these Caltech reservoirs to dribble into the ground.
Right.
Should be an improvement from what's happening today.
Yeah, we certainly are concerned about our neighbors as well as us. You know, we didn't want to make any matters worse whatsoever. I was assured with McCord that this would probably end up better for everybody.
Is there anyone else in the public that would like to speak to this application?
there's no one on Zoom.
No one on Zoom. Anything further? Okay, this application's closed.
No. Why
Application's
they're
closed.
here.
Thank you.
Make a comment. I do want to thank Sarah. I've been talking to her about this for a very long time, maybe a couple of years, and she has been fantastic to help guide us through the regulations and all the process. So thank you very much. Yeah, thank you.
That's the last application for tonight. We already discussed and voted on 272 Elm Street. 884 Smith Ridge Road is continued to next month. I'll let you guys take over on 1757 Ponus Ridge. And I'll come back for 52 Hawthorne.
Okay. All right, Commissioner, 1757 Ponus Ridge is the barn that's coming down to be replaced with a ADU pool house that we just talked about. Anybody prepared to make a motion, or do you want to have discussion first?
I've told you how I feel. I understand the difference between ZBA and a special permit. And I still think that the intent of the regulations is to allow us to go over 1,000 feet. But It's for instance, in that last application, when we talked about, how to accommodate a 1931 structure in an intelligent way. And in this case, we're not keeping the barn. I understand we have a non-conforming structure in the front yard, but it's doubling. And I do think it is going to be able to be seen from both roads. And I do think that with some more design work, they could either relocate it or redesign it to be more, to make more sense, to be more in keeping with the regulations, to be less excessive. Yeah, I feel it's excessive in 3 regards, and it doesn't need to be. And I understand that you can say, but we approve these all the time, because I've heard that argument in this seat, many times, and it doesn't make it right. So I'm uncomfortable with the scope of this particular project.
So if you were going to cite any of the special permit criteria as a reason why you're speculative about this project, is this a suitable location for the use? Are these appropriate improvements? I don't think there's any
I'm
impact on
most
transportation.
concerned with the location on a corner lot in the not only is it in the front yard, but it's basically fronting on both roads. And I understand a diminutive structure fronting on both roads, but this is a doubling of the structure, and it's not required to be, because we're not trying to keep an historical structure. We're not trying to keep an historical structure, which I think gives an applicant much more latitude when they're trying to keep a historical structure or work with an existing, like the house, the 1931 house, work with. So since they're keeping nothing, I think they have a lot of flexibility with regard to the design and the location.
Can I make a motion to approve?
You can make a motion to approve. We'll
I'd
see if
like
it-
to make a motion to approve. What would be the best wording on that?
Well, you should cite some special permit criteria about why you think this is an appropriate location. These are appropriate improvements, how this fits with the POCD.
Well, I don't want to get into that kind of detail unless, Sarah, you can provide it.
So I mean, you can just make a motion to approve and be general. You don't
that's what I'd
have
like
to
to
get particularly specific.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the application as drawn.
Okay, no conditions.
No conditions.
Okay, do we have a second? Okay, I'll second, because I hear what Mr. Engel is saying, but I think the fact that there is an existing structure in this location, it makes it an appropriate location for an accessory use, because there is an accessory use there today. It may not be being used to its fullest potential. And I think that the improvements are well-designed and consistent with the house design. And also our POCD talks about incentivizing accessory dwelling units further than we currently do. So I'll second the motion. All right.
And so is that part of the motion? So like, I think one of the problems I had with the motion was it didn't cite anything as to why.
So that is part of the motion.
Yeah, I mean, it's best practice to include reasoning
Yeah,
as to
yeah,
why,
so-
if you can.
So
But it's not required by the
He doesn't
courts.
have to, she can.
But, okay, so just,
Now that's what you're voting
Commissioner
on.
Nielsen additions are now part of that motion?
Correct.
Okay, that's what I wasn't clear on.
I
I
think
don't
it's
object at all. Well said.
All right, so let's see if this motion carries. Ms. Larson?
Yes.
Okay, Mr. Swerdlow?
Yes.
Ms. Nielsen, yes. Mr. Herring?
Yes.
Mr. Engel?
No.
Passes.
We only need 4.
You just need majority of the,
Majority of the
who's
people
seated.
voting.
Yeah.
Got it. Okay. All right, so this application is approved.
All right. And then the final application is 52 Hawthorne. Any discussion, commissioners, on this particular application?
Mr. Chairman, I would be supportive of this application with one condition that along the north-south retaining wall, that the green giant trees be installed according to the size that stated by the applicant along the entire wall, unless there's current foliage already there to enhance screening.
Can I just clarify, when you say north-south, I believe you mean the eastern?
East-wind, yeah. the
Retaining
east-
wall, okay.
Eastern edge. Excuse me.
Eastern edge of the property.
Eastern edge of the
Okay.
property, yes, thank you. Along the entire length of that.
Why?
We have a relatively large structure being put in. It is in a 1/3 acre zone where most dwellings are visible to neighbors. And this would provide some additional screening of this enhanced use of the site to neighbors and improve the ambiance. They're already suggesting 5, just suggesting a few more, so we have a fuller screening. That's all.
So I'd like to agree with that, second that, but I'd also like to say that, you know, there's really nothing that special about this addition, but there's also, more importantly to me, there's nothing egregious about it either. And I don't think it really affects the neighborhood in a negative way. It's not really going to be seen by many. And it, you know, enhances the property for the owners of the property.
I think it's very well designed, using high quality building materials. It's consistent with the current residents as far as architecturally, looking for just some additional screening from neighbors.
By the way, when I said there's nothing special, that was positive, wasn't a negative.
I just think we should be a little more definitive in terms of if we're asking for additional plantings instead of 5, can we, to go the full length when there's existing planting at one end of it, right? There's already an evergreen down at the end that's in the pictures. Are we gonna say instead of 5, put 8 in? Is that gonna satisfy it?
8's fine with me.
So I would prefer if it's not a specific number, because, you know, what happens if for whatever reason they can only fit 7, then technically I can't give them a permit or a CO unless they've met the condition, and then they have to come back here and it's a waste of everyone's time.
I agree with that.
Okay, that's fine.
Along the line, whatever fits in according to the size of the plantings that they've already suggested.
At the discretion of the town planner.
At the
Yes,
discretion
I
of
like
the
that.
town planner.
I have a question, but it's more for the commission. I support the project. I'm going to vote for it. But I was a little surprised that we are with the stripe of exemption. And I just wondered whether that is our intent moving forward. I'm going to support this. I just was surprised when we said, so what are we exempting from a height requirement? And we were told, well, in order to make this work, we drew a stripe down the middle of the roof. And we said that that part was not part of our application, but the other parts of the roof were part of our application. And I thought this could in the future get us into hot water to designate this very specific piece of a roof and not this other piece of a roof. Just wanted to put that out there because
We've done that in the past with previous applications where we've restricted the height. I mean, in this case, it's a stripe down the middle, but in other cases, it's been portions of low roof areas, like the one that Sarah was referring to in 2022. Forget what road it was on.
Canoe Hill, I'm pretty sure.
Canoe Hill
Yeah.
was the L-shaped
We're
garage
okay
coming
with
around.
that.
Yes, we've done that before and we're okay with that.
Foot by foot, but, I mean, starting to get granular in my view. I understand, you know, like half of a roof or something, but it seems like we're getting more and more granular with this.
Personally, I think it affords the applicant who's trying to satisfy the regulation a little bit of flexibility, creative flexibility of where they're gonna meet that criteria.
And we're okay with that.
Instead of saying you have to take the whole roof of a particular structure.
I just want to make sure that that's our intent because I want to be consistent if that's what we're going to do.
I don't see any issue with it, commissioners?
No.
No. Yeah, I think we're good with it.
I mean, similarly, the garage, encumbering the garage, I think was a nice creative way of creating coverage to allow for that addition
Mhm.
and adaptive reuse of a strong structure. So,
In particular, because the garage is really right up on the property line, so that greater size of that structure would have a more substantial impact on neighbors.
well, I mean, that garage can't be much. I mean, the other thing I would say is that the garage has an accessory unit. It
Mm.
can't be 30 feet tall. Like you're only really encumbering it between 12 feet and 18 feet because
Yeah.
you can't really extend a garage
No.
to
It could be up
25
to-
feet in the first place.
It could be up to 25 feet tall, yes.
I know, but you couldn't make it 35 feet.
No, so yeah, you're really.
It can't be 25 feet if it's not attached. If it's
No,
detached
accessory structures are permitted to be 25 feet tall. Yes,
Yeah.
in this zone,
every zone is 25 feet.
So that goes off the table with this encumbrance.
Feet?
Okay.
Actually,
Yeah.
20 feet, it's 20 feet.
Okay.
Got Stephen in the back.
I'll make a motion. If I may, Mr. Chairman.
You may.
I move we approve the application with the condition that on the eastern side of the north-south retaining wall, green giants, as stated by the applicant, of the size stated by the applicant, be installed so that the entire side of that wall is as a picket line of plantings with any space that is available.
I would just phrase it as a continuous row of plantings along the eastern.
Oh, this add a line of green giant screening along eastern retaining wall as approved by the town planner.
Yes, great.
Sounds good.
I agree.
Do I hear a second?
I'll
Second.
Okay. Anything further, anyone? Call to vote. Dan Radman, I vote yes. Krista Nielsen,
Yes.
John Chris,
Yes.
Chris Herring,
yes.
John Engel,
Yes.
Alan Swerdlow,
Yes.
Christina Larson.
Yes.
Thank you very much. There's, a
I
couple of-
have 3 really quick reminders for the commission, if now's a good time. So coming up in January, at the January regular meeting, we're going to have our first subdivision application in a long time. That it's a 9-lot subdivision that's proposed. So I recommend is doing some light subdivision regulation reading to refamiliarize yourself with those since it's been a while. And any questions on subdivisions and the regulations, please reach out to me ahead of the meeting. Happy to, talk it through with everyone because subdivisions are different than special permits and site plans. So that will be a little different. As was mentioned at the last meeting in January, we're hopefully creating the subcommittee for the zoning regulation update. So if you have interest and you haven't already sent me an email or Dan or Krista an email, do that. And then finally on January 23rd at 7:00, we're going to do the remote, fully remote training with the representative from Yukon Clear, and the town attorney will be there for the second hour to supplement with any questions the commission may have. What date?
It's the
January 23rd,
at 7:00.
7:00, Zoom only. So no showing up here.
I do
23rd.
have it in my calendar. It's a good thing.
Sarah, will the
Yep,
subdivision
7:00.
applications, will that be on the P and Z applications file? The new folder?
Yeah, under 2025 applications. I don't think Lola posted it yet, but
Okay.
it will get posted very soon.
Okay, thank you.
Question, Ms. Carey, for this subdivision, if members of the commission wanted to see the site, can that be arranged?
Yes, so if.
It's a
the
large
commission-
site, so.
Yeah, so if we can talk about that, if the commission thinks a commission-wide site visit would be helpful, we could organize that or,
Yeah, I think it
Yeah.
would be worthwhile.
Say January 20.
so, we would have to pick a date, and if we're doing a site visit, that means it would have to either be on a weekend or, during business hours, because going at night isn't really going to be particularly helpful.
Doing daylight.
Brookwood Lane. By the country club.
I think it's 82 Brookwood. The property that last year was supposed to be a farm that you all had
Oh, we
this.
had
This
that.
is
Yeah.
Richard Gere's place.
It's the
Paul
Gear
Simon,
property
that's- Yeah, okay.
Paul Simon,
So,
Richard Gere.
So I mean, does
subdivision.
Farm.
does the commission want a site visit? Because I need to get the ball rolling on that.
I think would be worthwhile, yeah. What's
I would
everyone's
agree.
availability during the day or during business hours? Are people around?
So
working in the city?
typically the Inland
Need a
Wetlands
heads
Commission
up and
does like,
plan ahead.
so typically like Inland Wetlands does a monthly site visit for their applications. They do 8 AM. So it's right first thing in the morning.
We do that. That's fine.
Mhm.
Would you like to be closer to the meeting or sooner rather than later? Like we could, January 28th is the January
The week
meeting.
before, I think.
Yeah.
Is this with the applicant?
Yeah, so what would happen at a public site visit is, or a commission site visit, the commission would go, the public is permitted to go, and the applicants will be there, and it's essentially me just walking you through the site, so you can get your eyes on the site, but there's no talking. You can only ask questions that could not be answered unless you were in the field, so it's really just like a silent walk through the property with me pointing out to you, this is where lot 1 is, this is where lot 2 is.
You will be able to tell us lot 1.
I
2.
can point out landmarks to you all, but there's really no other talking other than me providing you all with the facts, and the applicant is also there.
Will the wetlands person be, are there wetlands? Is that? for-
So there's a separate wetlands application. They did their site visit last month. And so the timelines are running concurrently. So their first official public hearing is the day before our first official public hearing.
And Sarah, remind me, what's the time frame for deciding on a subdivision?
It's the same as special permits. So we
don't
have a while. You-
Necessarily have to open and close on January.
No, you do not have to close on January 28th. You also legally cannot make a decision until wetlands has made a decision. So.
Do we want to pick a date now for a site visit, or do you want to send an email afterward?
I will send an email tomorrow and then we'll
Oh, we do
start
it the week
coordinating.
before.
The week before?
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
I also just, I just realized I am out of town on the 28th for the meeting. So I'll be zooming in.
Okay, so I'm out of town as well.
It will.
Those are all my reminders.
Okay. Approval of the minutes. We have minutes from last month's meeting. Anyone have any questions or changes to the minutes? Here, no. Do I show of hands for approval of the minutes? Vote yes.
I'm gonna recuse. I was not.
Yes,
in
we're not
attendance.
here. Yes, we have an approval of minutes and we are adjourned. Thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you.
I'd just like to ask